breaking news. We know everybody, the whole wide world has seen the leaked opinion from the Supreme Court of the United States canceling Roe v. Wade, the dream of pro-lifers for decades. And we have with us a pro-life attorney from the Thomas More Law Society. His name is Royce Hood. Royce Hood he's been a friend for a long time. He's been a pro-life activist so much of his life. When he was at Ave Maria Law School, he started the pro-life group there and worked. He then founded Law of Life Summit, which has become a major part of the March for Life. He's just an awesome pro-life attorney who's given his life to it and there set himself up for eternity, if you will. Beautiful family and a dear friend, Royce Hood. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John Henry.
Royce, you're one of the few people who have gone through the opinion already, so I'd love to get your take on what it is.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, truly, obviously it's just a draft. That's the biggest thing that people need to understand, that this is not a final opinion. It won't be final until the court issues its ultimate decision. So a lot can happen between now and then. But this decision, this opinion is truly remarkable. It was drafted by Justice Alito, 98 pages. It includes a recitation of history of state law on abortion, which is fascinating. If you go to the back of it and look at the different appendices, and I'll say this opinion has some language in there that is remarkable. For instance, the Mississippi law refers to in the past it was a fetus, right? So Mississippi law refers to it as an unborn human being, right? And the court adopts that language in this draft opinion, which I find to be truly remarkable. I've so many notes. I mean, it goes on to say things, an analysis of stare decisis. And if any of your viewers don't know what that means, it means that basically Casey declined to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Casey decision in the 90s. And they relied heavily on this theory of stare decisis, which basically means that the court is obligated to follow precedent. And this court points out that they can't follow precedent that's not constitutional. And it really, it centers on that constitutionality of the Roe decision in the first place. So I can go into more detail if you like as we talk.
Yeah, if you can, please. I mean, this is a decision that comes in a historical context. We didn't have the same ultrasound and the same understanding of life in the womb when Roe v. Wade first came out. And this decision also reflects that.
It does. Yeah. I mean, a large part, actually, the original Roe decision had this trimester scheme that was ultimately undone by Casey, and Casey adopted the, no unreasonable burden, you have to allow access to abortion and so forth. But this case focuses on a number of things. I mean, first of all, like one of the quotes I have, that the Mississippi law, by the way, is, the legislatures in Mississippi really thought through their law. On a few of the quotes that I found to be really marvelous, and I quote, "Unborn human beings' heart begins beating at 8 weeks." And this is right out of the Mississippi law. So what Mississippi did was they actually took a hard look at things that that science today knows to be true, and they codified that in their legislation. And so Alito and the majority in this draft opinion take a look at those facts and say these are indisputable. These aren't being questioned by anybody. And so therefore, we believe that it is in the interest of this country that Roe was wrong, and that this decision should be decided by the people, within their states.
It's amazing. We're hearing so much today about the need to follow the science. And so here they are following the science. And of course, there's a major uproar about it.
Yeah, there is an uproar. And frankly, and we can get into more of the merits. I mean, again, this thing's 98 pages long. It's truly a remarkable opinion. I would imagine you'll have a PDF of that available on your website. We've got one at lawlife.org. And I'll just say this, the leak is something that I raised red flags. The second I saw that this decision was floating around, I said, this is not something that was leaked with good intentions. This was leaked for one purpose, and that purpose is to basically sow chaos and try to influence the justices to change their mind.
Okay, so one of the things you said at the outset is very important, that this is only a draft and it's not the final product. And in a way, it doesn't count, if you will. Is that correct?
That is correct. Well, this is it's not uncommon, and this is pretty egregious that somebody would leak this, and I'm hearing rumblings about who it might have been and so forth. That really, it matters because that person should probably be held accountable to some extent. But ultimately, the court, the justices, whether they agree or disagree, should have the ability to deliberate amongst themselves. And as they, the issue, this is just the first draft written in February. There could easily be several drafts before it gets to the final. And you might have justices switching positions or saying, I don't agree with this. And they might issue a concurrent opinion or maybe a dissent. And so, yes, this is not final. And it's being sensationalized by the media as being final. Roe v. Wade has been overturned. Well, that's not true. That's not accurate. Mm-hmm. There's a draft opinion that leans that way, but that's not where we're at today.
Okay, so this is very concerning for a number of reasons. One thing that as a pro-life activist yourself, very often at our Marches for Life or some other pro-life demonstration, the pro-aborts will come and sometimes do some really crazy things, but they come with self-assured. There's a very good reason why they're so self-assured, because they know pro-lifers are peaceful. Are there ever craziness like some shooter? Yes, there are, but nothing like the other side. Pro-life demonstrations are by and large totally peaceful, prayerful, all these things. However, the left is definitely not so. First of all, the whole issue of life is based on what they're doing to these children, which is killing them. But also, even in the demonstrations, you don't have that many pro-lifers go in the midst of pro-abortion demonstrations because of the violence and the ugliness that can be there. Right now, in the midst of this kind of cancel culture, the doxing that's gone on, all of this threat and even violence that we've seen in the United States, is there, do you think, perhaps even a real threat for these justices?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, you've got people protesting outside of the court right now. And what you allude to is, it boils down to culture of life versus culture of death. On one hand, you have a culture of life that respects the dignity of the human person from conception to natural death. And on the other hand, you have a culture of death, which there are two elements within that culture of death. There's the element that is just inherently evil, right? The guys and the gals running the show that just have no qualms about it. And then you've got this large contingency of people that are sort of ignorant. They don't understand what it is that they're being pushed into, and they don't quite understand the motives, and they believe what they've been told all these years about abortion being a right and so forth. And they don't understand that, the inherent dignity of human life. So yes, I do think there's a risk of political pressure, and there's a risk of violence. I mean, Kristen Hawkins from Students for Life of America posted last night that her team has received some death threats and so forth. And that's not uncommon in the pro-life world, unfortunately. Our group is out there praying for conversion. I don't know one pro-lifer. If a pro-abortion doctor left the abortion clinic and came out to the 40 Days for Life campaign and said, I need help, he would be embraced as a brother or as a sister, right? And that's who we are. That's who we are. But on the other hand, the other side will definitely cast the first stone without any question. And I just want to read to you something that was in this opinion. The judicial branch derives its legitimacy not from following public opinion, but from deciding by its best lights whether legislative enactments of the popular branches of government support the Constitution. And what they're getting at here with that language was the court contemplates in this opinion that there's going to be enormous public opinion, and there's going to be a big debate. But they go on to point out that in Mississippi, for example, women were the primary voters. There's a majority of the voters in Mississippi are women, and they voted in the elected representatives who made this law. And so I think that demonstrates sort of where things are in numbers. And again, we have a silent majority, I believe, firmly at the end of the day.
And very interestingly, especially among women, I know many women who were not in that generation where they had anything to do with Roe v. Wade and its whole decision and deliberation. There was really none, but nonetheless, there's a whole new generation of women who grew up in the age where they understood what human life in the womb really is, more so than ever before, because they had the evidence of not only regular ultrasound, but of 3D ultrasound and of the whole revolution in science that showed us life in the womb. It is amazing at these early stages, and the new advancements on even keeping children alive after early birth and so on. It's just unreal what's been happening on the side of science. And so that whole generation of women wonder, hey, no one's ever asked us about life. And so, yeah, there are all sorts of women out there who want to defend life, because in a very special way, women understand life in the womb more intimately than men. And it's so women in the majority are leading the pro-life movement and also ready to defend life. And as you said, in Mississippi, the ones who voted in, the legislators who have come forward with this legislation. Let's back up for a minute. Roe v. Wade, if it does get struck down, as it seems it may be now in a more real way than we've ever thought before, will that outlaw abortion totally in the United States right away?
No, no, will not. Abortion, the fight for those, pro-life activists does not end. And we've had a lot of questions about this, pro-life ministries, pregnancy centers, what happens to us? And this is weeks ago. And what happened to us, in the off chance that Roe gets overturned? Well, nothing. You got to keep fighting, because we are going to have, it's interesting. You go back in history, and there was at one point, there was free states and there were states that allowed slavery. And we're seeing that today in a different context. We're seeing free states and we're seeing states that allow abortion. And in fact, 26 states asked the Supreme Court in this Mississippi case, in the Dobbs case, to overturn Roe and Casey. So there's simply a majority of states in this instance. But look, we have things like medical pill abortions that can be ordered online for free, and the government will even mail them to people. And we have programs like this that are without parental consent, by the way. And they will send these medical abortion pills and so forth. So yes, this fight does not end. And in fact, I think it will really be interesting to see what happens if the court carries through on this opinion. And we have to pray that these justices and their families can hold firm, that they have the security and the comfort and the confidence that they need in their security system and everything else, that they stand firm with this decision. And if this happens, we're going to go back to the states. The states are going to lead the fight. And you're going to see, by the way, you're going to see Congress very, very soon. There's already talk in Washington, D.C., trying to push through a bill that would codify Roe and change the filibuster, change the rules at the Senate, because they know they're not going to have the majority. So they're going to do all sorts of things before the midterm to try to push through Roe in D.C.
Yes, indeed, pray that these justices are given the protection they need, both to stand firm for their decision, yes, but also they're making a decision that impinges upon their eternity as well, in reality, but the future of the great nation of the United States. It's an incredible moment in history, and really people of faith need to pray. I mean, that's bottom line right now. I know that there have been already countless prayers and sacrifices and sufferings in this pro-life fight, but at this time where there's really a pivotal moment, the prayers need to be intensified like never before, particularly for these justices. So Royce, what else have you seen in the decision and or the what's been going on around the protest against it, or in this draft decision? What else have you seen of great interest?
I would encourage people, whether you're a lawyer or not, take a look at the decision, read it for yourself, or not the decision, but the draft decision, right? Take a look at it. It's interesting. It goes through a recitation of history on that, what I mentioned before, that stare decisis, and how if are people going to lose confidence in the Supreme Court because of this decision? And this court was very, very careful in saying, look, you shouldn't. We're not deciding, we're not striking down stare decisis and other matters. We are focusing specifically on abortion. They point out that abortion is very different than marriage or contraception, which is a whole nother issue, that this does not in any way affect those matters. And they go through this court as well, goes through and talks about preservation of integrity of the medical profession. And they in Mississippi found that gruesome and barbaric acts with respect to late-term abortion, and that language has made its way into this opinion, which I find to be just truly astonishing. And so again, I think that people need to take a look at this opinion best they can. There's going to be a lot of commentary in the days to come. There'll be attorneys that are breaking this down. Tomorrow night, Thomas More Society is going to be doing a webcast with some top attorneys. They're going to be breaking down this decision. People can get information about that at thomasmoresociety.org. And we're going to be holding an event in July in Schaumburg to discuss this case as well. Hopefully by then we'll have our final opinion. Information about that event can be found at lawlife.org. And so again, so much in this opinion that has to be dissected. It's truly phenomenal.
Just before you go on for a second, Thomas More Society, a very key player in the pro-life movement in the United States. They are famously the pro-life attorneys that took forward the case or defended the great defender of life, Joe Scheidler, on the racketeering charges that were brought against him. Unbelievable heroes in the movement, Thomas More Society. And Royce, as we close off now this live stream, and I want to thank you for being with us and your colleagues at Thomas More for supporting us and giving us the absolutely needed information we need on this and so many other pieces of pro-life legislation. What should be people's takeaway right now on this draft decision and in the coming days?
Yeah, I think the takeaway needs to be the left, the pro-abortion lobby are masters at controlling the narrative. And I posted something about this on Facebook last night. So be really, really aware of what you're hearing in the headlines, what you're reading in the headlines, what the pundits are saying. They're going to do everything they can to control the narrative, to demonize the justices, their families, pro-life movement, to demonize this draft opinion. They're going to do everything they can to sow chaos, to protest, to probably even riot. And they're going to do that with the purpose of intimidating the justices to change their opinion. So stand firm. And by the way, I'll point out for any Catholics out there, May is the month of Mary, which is truly interesting. So how convenient and ironic that this leak happened during that time. We can always take a bad and turn it into something good. So pray for the justices, pray for their families, and just wait. It's going to be a really interesting few weeks ahead as we figure out what this means.
It's time to dust off your pro-life apologetics. Now is an opportunity for pro-lifers like there really hasn't been in the last 50 years to talk about life, to defend life as the loving truth that it is. It's all about being pro-woman. It's all about being pro-babies. And it's not about hating, and it's never about hurting. The pro-lifers are the one who not only offer to women contemplating abortion life, help, sustenance, anything they need, adoption, whatever it might be, but also the ones who, even after they go ahead with the abortion, are there to pick up the pieces, are there to give them counseling, to offer them forgiveness, to encourage them to get right with God. It's the same folks. And this is the most loving movement on earth, and it's life-saving. Brush off your pro-life apologetics, get them going, because now is your opportunity to share like never before. Royce Hood, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
God bless you all, and we'll see you soon on LifeSite News.